We'll go with the minutes. First, everybody had a chance to review it. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second, you need a second? Okay. Jared's seconded. All right, discussion, please.
Look fine to me.
Looks like it's good. All right, all in favor?
Yes.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose?
Aye.
Okay. All right, pass. Right, first. Rhonda Caldwell. Is she here?
Hi, yes, good morning, I'm here. How are you?
Good morning, Rhonda. You know, we had
Good morning.
some of the information that we received was very hard to read. I don't know about everybody, other commissioners, but anyhow, you're looking for, what are you looking, exactly what you're looking for? Tell us.
Okay, so yeah, I'm looking for your mercy today to receive a waiver for educational requirements for licensing for my REB 075 6923 broker's license. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys have a really full agenda today, but I just wanted to say that I was a broker for 13 years here in Connecticut. I was licensed in 2005 as a broker, and I went to go work for the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority in 2014. And in 2019, I let my license expire, and I knew I had time to go do the continuing ed. Well, then, like not even 6 months later, COVID hit. So I missed the opportunity to do the continuing education in 2022 because of, the whole COVID, not getting vaccinated, not having any, I didn't want to be in person. So when I contacted folks in 2022 at your office at the real estate division, I was just told, okay, if you miss the deadline, then you can go ahead and retest. And I said, okay, then I'll just retest whenever I'm ready. So I just started studying, and because I knew I was gonna have to retest for the brokers. And then just recently I submitted the check. I sent them it the wrong form. They sent it back and said I had to do a whole new form to actually reapply in full for the licensing. And I just was confused, but I sent that form in with the check. They cashed the check, and then I called up and found out I have to start all over from scratch. One thing that I know, the information that I got on the last submission with my check to try to retest, just recently said that I needed 1,500 hours to work under a broker, but I can't work under anything because I'm not licensed to do anything now. And so right now the website is not clear on what happens if you miss your continuing ed criteria. If you miss that window, it's not clear. It just says you have to quote unquote reapply. But I don't know what that means to reapply for the brokers or reapply as a salesperson. Do I have to start all over from scratch? So, I would really love to, encourage the commission to work on even making the website a little bit more clearer so that we can make a better decision. I mean, I probably would have just went and found a mask and sat through a 12-hour class if I knew that I had to be a salesperson all over again, because I haven't been a salesperson since the early 2000s. So I'm here for mercy today and say, yes, I did miss the opportunity to do the continuing ed in late 2019. But by 2020, everything went south and I didn't look at it. I even was working at CHFA and Governor Lamont told us not to go back to the office until 2022. And I had already missed that window. So I'm hoping I can get a waiver and just retest for the broker's license. And if you guys are willing to do that, I've already paid the fee. I'll pay whatever fees you guys want. I at this point, I can't afford to go back through the salesperson licensing process all over again. It's been now 20 years since I've done that. And I'd love to not have to do that and just get my license restored. I didn't have any complaints regarding my license. I had no challenges on, improprieties on my license in the 13 years that I had it. So I'm just looking for the mercy of the commission today so I can get back to work. I'm no longer working at CHFA. I did retire from there, so I'm looking to get back to work. So thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the ability to go before the commission this morning.
When did you retire from the state?
I left the state in 2022.
Thank you.
So you
I left
haven't done,
CHFA.
so you haven't done any continuing ed since 2019?
2019, yeah,
18?
that was the last time. Yeah. And so I'm
So
due to
that's
do
6
that.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. And whatever you all say, if you guys require that I need to go, take classing and things like that over, I just know the 1,500 hours under another broker would be hard to find. I mean, I would just have to go out and find that person, but to take these salespeople, the salesperson coursework to get to the salesperson license and then redo all that again, I don't know if I even
But
have the money to do.
your license up to date? It's paid, it's current in every other way other than no.
That's
No, I
lapsed.
can't pay for anything. Yeah,
No.
I can't, it lapsed. So I can't, I mean, I would pay. I mean, if you guys, if it comes out that you want me to pay the back fees, I'd be willing to do that.
How long is it lapsed?
The 3 years was up in 2022.
That was 6 years ago.
Well,
Yeah. I mean,
No, the
2020.
license actually expired in 2018.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
can you say that?
2018, it was due to renew in 2019. The continuing ed lapsed in 2022.
Yeah, I don't
The
know that
window.
we can do anything with that. Once they've expired, if it's beyond a certain amount of time, I don't think there's anything we can do. If you
it's
have
through-
reciprocity, do you have reciprocity in any other state?
Oh, yeah, there's other states that I could get reciprocity in. I'm just
If
not
you-
licensed anywhere else other than Connecticut.
What I was going to say is if you have a reciprocal license in another state that's still active, you may be able to get a reciprocal license back in Connecticut.
Yeah, no, I don't have any. I was licensed in South Carolina, but that was back in 2012.
I'm not sure, Peter, she could do that if her license is, she doesn't have a license.
No, what
Yeah, I
I was
don't have
saying,
one.
so for example, if I have a license in Connecticut and let's say I believe we're still reciprocal in Massachusetts. If I lapse in Connecticut, but I remain active in Massachusetts, can't I apply for a reciprocal license in Massachusetts once again, in Connecticut once again?
Ron, let me ask you a question on it. When you took your license, was the PMP 30 hours or 60 hours? Your PMP?
It was 30 in, I think, in 2003.
Yeah, because I think in 2014, January, it switched to 60 hours.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I was licensed already by then.
yeah. Did you ever practice as a broker?
Oh, I did. Like I said, from 2005 to 2000 until 2019, I stopped working then. For health reasons and whatnot. But so for that time, from 2005 to 2019, I was active and working, doing small work. I was working full time and doing this as my side job.
Yeah.
So.
What was the state you mentioned you were licensed in 2012?
South Carolina.
Can we just have her take the 60-hour broker class again, because that would get her up to whatever laws have changed since she became unlicensed in 2019 or 2022, whenever it actually expired, and then have her retest? Is
Typically,
that
it's a whole
acceptable to
process
you,
from
Ms.
the
Caldwell?
beginning again.
I would say
Yeah.
here's the other problem, I think, is the amount of time you've had a broker's license and let you have practice on it. I would really feel that I feel uncomfortable about you going anyhow for a broker's license. You definitely would have to be a salesman license. In the past, people have come in front of us before and this is how we had handled it.
But I will
Yeah.
say, I've done a little research very quickly. South Carolina, it looks like, is reciprocal with Connecticut. Different states
Yeah.
handle it differently. So for example, Massachusetts, if your license lapses, it becomes an inactive license, which you can reactivate within a certain period of time. If you can reactivate in South Carolina, then you have a license in South Carolina. You may be able to get a reciprocal license in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that might be something to look at too. I never thought about that.
I would be open to, if others find it acceptable. I mean, she was a broker for a very long time and practiced as a broker for a very long time, and also worked for CHAFA, which is, a government agency related to real estate. and she didn't have any problems in the past regarding her licensure, if she took the 60-hour brokerage class again and passed the test, I don't know, like she's done her hours in the field selling houses before, presumably. So, that 1,500-hour requirement to go from salesperson to broker is there in the past. And I don't feel like the industry has changed that much of how you're servicing clients in
But
that
the
time, and the
education
consumer.
has changed both for salespeople and broker. It's a
Right,
different.
Right, but that's what the 60 hours of training would, familiarize her with new rules, if there are any in the meantime. And then if she's passing a test, I just,
My only concern, it's a good idea. My concern is that asymmetrical with how we've handled it in the past with other people. We have to be careful about that.
Can I ask you, when you worked as a broker, was it your own firm or did you work for somebody else, Ms. Caldwell?
I worked for Caldwell Banker in North Haven.
Okay. And you were active with them as a
Yes.
full-time agent?
No, I was never full-time because I was working at CHFA during the day. And I've been in, I was before that. Right now, when I left CHFA in 2022, I'm back working in the private sector. So I'm a regional operations manager now for Related Management. We have a portfolio of about 3,900 units of affordable housing in Connecticut and Massachusetts. And so I'm the operations person for that. I'm not in the front line because I'm not licensed. So I'm not able to sit at a property, which I wouldn't because I've been in the business for 30 years. But I currently manage a portfolio of multifamily housing. I live in Hamden. I have properties in New Haven and a lot of them in Bridgeport and Greenwich and all over the state of Connecticut. So that I'm still in the business. I just was wondering, how I could get my license back and what I needed to pay. And then I got all confused and there was a lot of confusion when I was calling the office trying to figure out what to do. So I thought, they would come before the commission and you guys can kind of give me some direction on what I needed to do. So I'm still in the business, but I'm just not working on the front lines.
Anyone yet here? Have any other questions?
I guess, I certainly would like to help, Ms. Caldwell. I guess one thing I'm concerned too about is the precedent. Are we setting a precedent that we've never done before, or one that we're going to open the floodgates to other people?
We have had similarities on it, and I think we did approve one individual some time ago. He had a broker's license on it, and then he did apply for a salesman's license. But he did have to go to the 60 hours.
Mm-hmm.
60 hours on it.
Yeah,
But
that's
fair.
right.
I think though I think Peter has a good idea. You can check with your South Carolina or North Carolina, the license you had there.
Right.
Okay. Is it current, your license in?
No.
That's-
That one, I paid that one again in
Okay, so
2019. Everything ended. Yeah.
So
So I can contact them and see what their process is.
okay. Let's
Thank you so much.
let's wait. I think probably to do is to maybe come back and see how that goes. And see.
Oh, sure. Okay.
One,
Yeah, let me
one quick
contact
question with CHFA. I mean, that certainly is very helpful. Is there a lot of continuing ed, and do you for one thing, do you do CPR training as part of that?
No, it's CHFA. I was a senior program officer for the state housing portfolio. The state of Connecticut has housing portfolio about 10,000 units of elderly and disabled housing. So I led that team before I left there and kind of working my way up from an asset manager to kind of take over the department. And the state housing portfolio are these really cute little housing authority elderly properties that were built in the 1970s and 80s by the state of Connecticut. And so Connecticut basically continues to want to maintain that housing. It's very important to keep this housing available for elderly community here in Connecticut. So I was leading that before 2022. And then we know that the pension things and everything changed. So we all kind of left and went back to the private sector.
I see. Thank
So
you.
yeah,
was-
I
I
didn't
was-
leave. I mean,
I was
I
grasping
left
at
CHFA in
straws.
good standing. I love CHFA and the work that they do. They put up many, and between that and DOH, which was our sister organization. Obviously the DOH chair is the chairman of the commissioner is the chairman of the CHFA board. Salem Mosquito Bruno. So we all
What I
did
was,
really
what I
great.
was getting at is I was trying to see if we could accept any of the education you had as continuing ed. That's what I was hoping for. That's what I was grasping for.
Yeah, I took 2 classes through the Institute of Real Estate Management to prepare for the CPM course. I did take classes with them. So I do have that coursework that I did at CHFA, which was in 2017 or 18. I can go look that up. And so those are the courses that I did take. And it was all geared around property management.
That's a good idea, Peter, except I think she would have to take the mandatory courses.
Yeah.
those
And
will have
I
to go-
believe we just approved, correct me if I'm wrong, CPR and first aid as also something that was one of the requirements. That's why I was grasping at that too.
Okay. I don't know when's the last time I took a CPR course.
Take a look.
can look at-
That may qualify.
Okay. I can see if I can go find my certificate. Thank you
Okay.
so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate your time and your mercy.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you for coming.
All
Nice
right.
to
Have a
meet
great day.
Brenda.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next one on the agenda. Francine Brown. Brown. Okay. Your license has lapsed, is that it?
Is that the
I'm
one
sorry.
we couldn't?
You're
Read.
muted.
Oh, you're
You're
muted,
muted.
Ms. Brown.
Can't hear you.
I think she needs to be unmuted.
Rachel, can you do that or?
No, I don't have control of that. That's on their side.
Okay.
Take a look at the bar on the upper right-hand corner near the red leave button. You might see a microphone with an X across it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, for some reason it wouldn't let me click it off. It was only when I did the control shift. Good morning. Yes, I'm asking for a waiver. I had a death in the family. My brother had passed away, and it's taken a major toll on me. And it has affected me, and I wasn't able to take the continuing ed classes in a timely fashion. And I didn't want to renew my license without the continuing ed classes, so I waited till I completed them when I was in the right frame of mind to sit through all those classes, and I did the classes online. And when I went to renew, that's when I saw the penalty fee, which was exorbitant. I couldn't believe that it was like almost $700 for the continuing ed, because I knew that I was paying a late fee for the license, which I think is like 35 or 40 something dollars, but almost $700 penalty for the continuing ed. It's just way too much. And that's when I had reached out to the real estate division, and then they told me they were sorry for my condolences. You need to speak with this person because we can't waive it. And then that person told me I would have to, that she would have to see. And then that's how I ended up here on your agenda today, trying to seek for the waiver. So I completed all of my continuing ed classes. It's just a matter of just paying to renew my license at this point.
When did your brother pass away?
October 3rd. And he was sick. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What year was that?
Oh, last year. I'm talking about 2024.
So, you know, you had.
So I was supposed to renew my license November 30th of last year.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just recent, very recent.
I have a
I-
question. Does the state have a payment plan, by the way? Jason, do you know if they do?
There are no formal payment plans. That's something that can be arranged sometimes on, on requests, on review.
So
That's
actually,
something if that's something of interest here, we can certainly look at that.
I just go back to it, there's 2 years to complete the continuing ed. First of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. But I go back, I think in other meetings, we've had the discussion that it's not, you have an extended period of time to take the continuing ed. You know, we all do. So, that's just,
And
that's just
and
input. Go
I
ahead. I'm
recognize
sorry.
that, but to be honest, I would say probably at least 80% of us usually wait till time for around the license to start taking our continuing ed classes. I've seen salespeople, I've seen broker owners. I'm sure there's some people who take it in the first beginning of the 2 years, but majority of us take it towards the end, and it's just unfortunate. My baby brother, wasn't expecting him to be leaving me. And it was just an emotional time, and I just felt like I wasn't really in the right frame of mind to sit through all of those hours and to pass the courses as well too. So I'm asking for a waiver of the fee. I'll pay a late fee for the license. I'm not asking about that, just on the continuing ed.
what's that, 625, is it?
No, it's like 650 something, close to 7.
Well, the late CE fee itself is $625. There probably an additional fee for the late renewal as well.
Okay.
And just for clarification, and I don't think we have anyone from legal on here. I don't think the board has authority to technically waive the late fee because that's instituted by, in law. But I'm not
Well, it's not
positive.
the late fee I'm asking to waive. I'm talking about the penalty fee for the continuing ed class. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disputing the late fee
Right.
for the real estate.
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's like
but that
under
is, yeah,
50.
and that,
But the
I
penalty
misworded
fee,
it.
I just, because it just went into effect, I think it's excessive. If the broker's license, 380 something, how did we ever arrive to 650 something for penalty on continuing ed? We've never had that in the X amount of years that I've had my license. I've never seen us charge a fee like that. And yeah, if
Yeah,
I
no,
had
that
known
is,
about it, I definitely would have voted against that or started a petition to block it. But I think it's excessive. You're deterring people from renewing their license. You're making it harder for people to maintain a real estate license.
yeah, no, just to clarify that is both of those, the late fee for the renewal and the late fee for the CE completion are both in law, instituted by the legislature, not by the agency or by this board.
Jill, do you have we have copies of her continuing ed? Jill Conklin?
Hi, Ben.
I can forward that. No
do
one
I have
asked me to forward
copies?
that.
Do we have, well, do we have proof of the continuing ed? She says she's
Well,
completed,
She's completed the continuing
She-
ed?
she's
I
completed.
completed the continuing ed, but no one's asked me to forward it. So if you want me to forward it, I can, because I took the online class. There's one class that I took with the Connecticut with CAR that counts as part of your continuing ed, and then the rest I took through online, and I have the certificate, so I could download them and forward it to you guys. So that's not a problem.
So those certificates were due by September 1st of
Mhm.
2024? You're aware of the 90-day prior to the renewal? That's when the CE is due?
Yes, I'm aware that I am late, so that's why I'm asking for the waiver. I am aware that I'm late. I didn't deny it. I am late. I did complete it late.
Jay, Do we have
Yes.
an attorney with us today that can tell us whether or not we have the right to make any change? Because this has come before us before, and I believe we have another item on the agenda that asks for the same waiver.
Yeah, I don't believe there's Laura with us at the moment. I can try and call someone in. I think what this board has the authority to do is waive the requirement, but I'm not the late fee. But let me try and see if we can get one of legal in
Jay.
here.
Jay, it's Annalisa. I'm online.
Oh, you are awesome. Thank you, Annalisa.
I don't have a solid answer. I would need to verify that about the statutory fee. There is the hardship waiver in regulation. I can verify that the commission has the authority to use that hardship waiver, but the hardship waiver is very specific. Has very specific things that qualify that, such as medical hardship or military service for the hardship waivers. But those are the only ones I know of in the past. I can verify that for the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, the way the regulation reads, it says exceptions may include but not limited to military service and individuals who are physically handicapped that prevents them from sitting.
So I don't think there's much at this point we can do, Ms. Brown. It's beyond,
Okay.
it's beyond our control into it.
Okay, so you're saying that, I'm sorry.
We can't waive the fee that you're
Okay,
requesting.
But as was mentioned, if there's interest, we can look at a payment plan.
Okay, so then you can notify her of that?
it's okay, it's okay. Yeah. I just find this to be a bit absurd, to just be honest with you guys. I've been a realtor, a broker, for over 15 years, and I've had my license for almost 20 years. So I've never requested this before because I've never been devastated like this before. I just feel like whoever came up with this was just cruel, and this was unnecessary to add such an exorbitant fee on top of the continuing ed. This is a deterrent towards realtors, so I guess I'll focus on seeing how we can correct this for other people. If we can't help me today, then maybe I can help other realtors in the future. But I feel strongly against this fee. It's excessive. If you want to charge a late fee, fine, but charging a fee that's like twice the amount of our real estate license, wow. It's ridiculous. All right. I said my piece.
All right, well, thank you very much. And again, I'm sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
Okay. Richard Lovely? Mr. Lovely? Is Mr. Lovely here?
I don't believe so. I don't see him.
Okay, get a continuing, what is he looking for? Currently has a license, I believe.
Yeah, I
Wasn't it the
believe he's
same issue,
renewal
waiving the
and-
late fee?
Yeah, I think so. That's the way I understand
But I
it.
think the medical issue, wasn't it with his wife? His
Yeah,
wife
he's
had the
looking for a
issue.
rebate.
Oh, look,
I think,
Wants
oh,
it
he's paid,
back.
he's paid everything.
I
He's
think
paid
his problem was he was claiming there wasn't sufficient notice of the change to the 90 days.
Didn't DCP tell everyone?
They did, but I think it was the
Yes.
email. He said the email wasn't clear. So I haven't seen the emails. I don't know whether that's true or not, but.
They were pretty clear.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you go
There were
back,
also multiple presentations by legal. I think 3 presentations.
Jason, I can't hear you.
Yeah, Jason, could you turn up your speaker?
All right, I got my headphones on here.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank
That's
you.
better.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, aside from any emails, there were also multiple presentations from legal that people could attend in person or online.
Yeah, and honestly, he has a broker's license, so he's responsible for understanding and implementing anything that comes out of DCP.
Correct.
Yeah, because I think he said that the email I received simply points out it needs to be completed prior to the renewal date. Hmm.
You know, it seems like the majority of licensees were able to comply with the law. And we've been getting a few requests, but in terms of the percentage that did comply, you know, it seems like the majority understood and did follow the rules.
I mean, I was one of the people who was for a higher penalty, and I think that, you know, we really led the way, that we had one of the highest penalties, and it was meant to be a huge deterrent. And I mean, it's nasty. And, you know, it's the same thing with properties. You tow people, you know, a lot of people park incorrectly. You tow 1 or 2 and they tell everyone, and it ends it. And I mean, I feel awful for these people, but I don't know another way to regulate it.
I think
I
maybe one
agree
of
with
the,
you, Peter. It was meant as a deterrent. So most people are now complying.
It's a deterrent, and the people who get caught in this, I mean, they tell everyone, I had to pay, you know, this huge amount of money, and it becomes a very strong deterrent. But I don't know another way to regulate this.
Sorry.
I think,
Okay.
one of the things maybe perhaps is that I think, Mr. Lovely actually lives in Florida, doesn't he? If I look right, I think he's licensed in Florida, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. So it could have been a confusion from his licenses that he has. But he is licensed. He's paid the payment. He wants part of that. Obviously, he wants the penalty credit to him.
I don't know, Ben. It says, but we cannot afford the 625. I need to renew my license immediately. So does that mean it's not renewed?
Yeah.
And also, didn't
So
we
he
just
didn't
determine
pay-
that we don't have the authority to waive that fee?
Yeah, we don't have the
Correct.
authority. So I don't see how we can help him.
Mr.
No.
Chairman, this is Annalisa, the lead with the legal division.
Yes.
Is Mr. Lovely's application a genuine hardship application?
Well, he's asking, another thing was a hardship in reference to his wife, not him. A medical, I believe, she had issue.
How
Her
have we,
medical problem was in 2021.
Yeah, but it was 2020, exactly, 2021 in my notes here. So I don't really think the hardship wasn't with him. The hardship was his wife back in 2021.
how have we ruled on that in the past, though, when we've had people who end up being the caregiver, like with a family member with dementia, those kinds of things? Haven't we considered that to be a hardship?
We can look back, but I don't believe we consider that as a hardship. It has to be the individual, whether
Okay.
it's a mental hardship or physical hardship, a hardship on them, the licensee. I believe that's how we've ruled before.
Well, now the department is telling us that we don't have the right to waive it. And
Anyhow,
why is it on our agenda? I mean, we've got 2 of them on the agenda, and now we're being told it doesn't really matter.
I asked this to myself, like, you're right. If we can't, then it shouldn't even get to us at this point.
So I'm just, all I was trying to clarify, and again, Annalisa can tell me if I'm wrong, but the way the regulation is written, you can excuse them from taking the CE at all. I don't think you can excuse them from the late fee if they're required to do CE. So if there's a hardship, you can say you don't have to do the CE, or you can even give them an extension to complete the CE, but you
Great.
can't say you don't have to pay the late fee.
Well, that's not their complaint. Their complaint is not about the CE. It's about the penalty.
Right.
Yeah, but
Which
if
we
they
have-
don't have the
which we have
CE
no control over.
requirement, if they don't have the CE requirement, there's no penalty. So for example, if Mr. Lovely has completed CE in Florida, we could, depending on what he did in Florida, we could take a look at what he did for Florida and see if we can accept that.
Well, Mr. Lovely has taken the CE. He's licensed, he's taken the CE now, and he's paid the penalty. What's now is a credit of the penalty. Because he says, a financial hardship, I guess.
And we don't have the authority to
That's
do
correct.
that.
That's
So
right.
just,
That's
sorry,
right.
we can't.
Yeah. So I don't think we have the authority to do so. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's Annalisa again. I will look into that and verify and get it back to the commission to confirm whether, where that authority lies and how much wiggle room there is there.
Well, then let us know, and we can maybe come back to this at some time, but at this point, we'd have to deny it. Anybody want to
His
make a motion?
license can work because he has complied.
I'm sorry. What was
Correct.
that?
He did pay the fee already, so he is
Right,
current and
that's correct.
licensed. So yeah.
He's paid, he is licensed. All he's saying, he's coming back and saying, listen, I paid the penalty, but I shouldn't have. All right, so I want a credit. Wait. On this one, I want a motion, please.
All right, I move to deny it.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, the next is the, is it 10 o'clock yet? Yeah, it is. Jason, are you going to set this up for the demo for the PSI?
Let's see, are our PSI guests here? Yeah, I see Alone and Kathy are here. So yeah, I will let Alone and Kathy introduce themselves. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Can you guys hear
Good
me okay?
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Excellent. So there's 3 of us on the call. My name is Alon Schwartz. I run the licensure group at PSI. So I oversee all of PSI state regulatory clients that we have. And with me is Kathy Leighton, who I work very closely with, and who works very closely with Jason and his team managing the real estate program for you guys. And a third member of our team is Aaron Batter, who is on the call, who runs our remote proctoring operations team at PSI. So Jason, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the purpose of today is for us to do the demo for everyone on this call to see the remote proctoring system. Is that correct?
Correct. So yeah, just I guess overall
And
for
I can-
everyone, so
Go
right
ahead.
now, people have to take the exam by scheduling with PSI, going to a location, as long as there's availability. And I know people in the past have had trouble finding availability or, making sure the time works. What this remote testing gives us the flexibility to do is allow people to do it at their home on their own schedule. And this is something that they can speak to, answer all the questions around security and all that, but it gives people flexibility and and it just opens up the whole process.
I guess the big question is going to be obviously security.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit if before we get into the demo, Jason, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so the concept of remote proctoring has been around for I'd say, probably 5 to 7 years. It's gotten really, I'd say, more common with our clients since COVID, but probably a year or two after COVID, it's become much more common. It used to have the notion of, there's no way that if you're taking the exam at home, it could be as secure as a test center. And while security obviously is done differently for a candidate that's taking it from home versus at a test center, security still exists both in how we proctor the candidate and through the software that we have, limiting candidates on what they can do on their computer and things like that. We now have, I'd say, close to in the kind of our state regulatory clients, we have over 50 of our clients that have chosen to add remote proctor as a modality. So what we're talking about here is obviously, as Jason said, test centers exist today. That's where candidates go to take the test. Those aren't going away. Those are going to remain as is. But if this is something that you guys want to add on to your program, this will be another option for candidates. So they can either still go to a test center or select to take the exam from home. We proctor them live. So if you can imagine you sitting there at your computer, there's a webcam. And so we're watching you as you go through the exam process. And as Aaron will demo in a second, we also have you download what we call a secure browser. So for lack of a better term, what that does is basically lock down your computer. So when you're in our exam, you can't minimize your screen to go to another website, anything like that. You're just there on the exam page. I would say probably half of PSI's real estate clients today, our other state clients have chosen to use this. And then some of our other clients like in insurance and barber and cosmetology. So it's becoming much more of a common feature for many of our clients. And then I think, Jason, probably best, if as Aaron goes through the demo, we can then open it up because I'm sure that'll lead to other questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
Okay.
And just to, I guess, also clarify up front, this isn't necessarily something like we're looking for a vote by the board. This is something that the licensing division does. This is more informational because we want to make sure everyone's on the same page and comfortable. And certainly you guys are representing the industry, but this isn't necessarily something to be voted on by the board.
Jason, can I ask you a question? How much is it? Have we had complaints about this for the need of it?
No, I mean, no specific complaints, but certainly over the years, we've had people reach out to us with difficulties trying to schedule a test. But even beyond difficulties, this fits in with our overall move for the agency and the state to make things easier for our licensees to get and maintain their licenses. As the governor has said, we want people online, not in line. So this kind of fits in with that. So everything we've done, this fits in with that, those efforts.
Aaron, are you ready to rock? There you go.
I am good whenever you guys are ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So I will be demoing the secure browsers already installed, and I will have to go off of camera. So I'll just do a quick introduction. My name is Erin Batter. I'm our Senior Director for Online Assessment. So I am in charge of our proctoring teams, technical support, quality, training, as well as a small investigations team, all associated with the online testing modality. So I've been with PSI for 5 years. I started on the project management side doing the migrations as we did a technology stack consolidation for the online testing platforms into our current state, which is now our future state technology. So, and then I moved into the product management team, and for the last 3 years have been in the operations side, leading the team that is administering these exams for online testing. So I've seen the whole purview of online testing, and I'm very keen and understanding of the product that is associated with it as well, both for the test takers as well as my operational team. So that's my exposure. So what I will do is go ahead and jump into this demo. Like I said, I will need to go off camera. And I am using a relaxed security profile. So that is what is going to allow me to use Teams during this demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up to launch, and give me one moment. And as you have questions that come up, feel free to ask those in chat or go ahead and just speak out as they come, as and when they come up. Happy to answer them throughout the demo. Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I have already installed the PSI Secure Browser, which is the software technology that we use. It is similar to a lockdown browser, so it is going to block any applications from being open that are not allowed. This also allows clients the flexibility, if there are particular programs that they want to allow, they can put those on an allow list. So the first thing a test taker is going to do on exam day after they go into the booking system and launch is they're going to be prompted to install the secure browser. Once it's installed and they've confirmed that they have been able to close down any of those prohibited applications, which will prevent them from progressing any further, then they would come to this language selection. So they can choose their on-screen or UI language. So we'll proceed in English today. First thing it's going to do is test that microphone. So you saw the first screen it was looking for. Now that it's found it, it's going to allow me to continue. We do require a webcam and a microphone for testing so we can hear what's happening in the environment as well as see the test taker throughout the duration of the exam. It runs just a touch slower when I've got multiple tabs open, and I will show some of those other pieces to you here in just a minute.
Maybe I missed this. How do I know there's not a cheat sheet behind your monitor?
I will get there in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Yep. So the first thing that the test taker is going to do is acknowledge the privacy agreement. This is an acknowledgement that they are being recorded so that they understand what they're agreeing to. So they would agree to that. This is our admission rules. So this would be aligned to what you as a state allow or disallow. So some states allow test takers to take breaks or to have water in a clear container. If you have reference materials, calculator, any of those sorts, they would be acknowledged on this page. Again, these are things that the test taker would have read previously in the booking system as well as their confirmation emails. But again, this is just that reminder and that documented proof that they have agreed to this again. And those are configurable. The next step is our photo ID capture. So we have the ability to use a mobile phone camera, which is via QR code. This allows us to capture a much clearer image than using a webcam. Today, I'll just do the webcam and take a quick photo. So it confirms this allows them to also retake in the event that it is blurry or they didn't capture it correctly. They would continue here. Now we're going to do the selfie capture. So I'll do another one. And then continue. So we added this page in so that test takers can see the side by side, making sure that they uploaded the ID and the ID capture and the selfie capture. Because if those are reversed, then when we do ID verification and things like that, which is a new feature coming, then it won't be in the right place. So this just helps make sure that those two are aligned. If they need to retake them, they can from this page as well. At this point in time, I'm going to continue. So those first few steps that a test taker goes through are what we refer to as the self-check-in process. So at that point in time, the test taker is on their own in the system. So they have not connected to anybody with PSI. It's just them in the software doing the install, the agreements, and then the uploads of the artifacts, the ID and the selfie. What you're seeing on the page now is the connection to a check-in specialist. So at PSI, we identified the need to bifurcate our roles. So we have two distinct roles that we use for proctoring. One is a check-in specialist who is trained on authenticating the user and securing the environment. And the reason that we did that is because that is the most crucial step in online testing to make sure the right person showed up and that the environment is secure. Then that check-in specialist is always going to be at a one-to-one concurrency because we want no distractions so that they are only looking at one screen. As I glance over at my teams, we've got 16 screens up, right? So we don't want anybody getting distracted. So that's why we do a one-to-one concurrency with our check-in specialist. So as a check-in specialist, this is what it would look like coming into me now as a check-in specialist. So I have the opportunity to review the photo ID and selfie. In the event that these two didn't match or didn't appear to match, or they had them flip-flopped, or I couldn't verify the information on the ID, then I would be able to reject them and ask the test taker to go back through that process.
Is that
All
done
of
by
our
or is it a automatic?
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I missed the first part of that question.
That's okay. Is that done by a live person, or is it done automatically, or AI, I guess?
Yeah, great question. So today it is done by my human proctors. We are, even when we implement AI into the system at PSI, we will use AI as a supplement, but we will always rely on the human to make the decision. So we do have a future state feature that is currently going through solution and product management to implement. We have a partnership with Intrust, which is a ID verification vendor that we will be implementing a little bit later this year into our product. That will send the ID through ID verification software to authenticate the ID. So today it is a visual comparison that we do as a human, which is why we use that one-to-one concurrency or one test taker to one check-in specialist.
Thank you.
So all of our communication is done by chat. We have found that allows us, because we are a global program, we support global programs as well. We have a global team. It allows us to communicate more effectively and efficiently. We can use scripting messages with our teams that allows us to create consistency. So if I chat here and that goes through, you will then see that same chat message appear here to the test taker. So that is how we communicate back and forth with our test takers throughout the check-in process and in the exam. And so it will always be that right fly out for the test taker. So once I approve and move to the next step, I've got it back on the test taker screen so you can see the transition here. One sec to catch up. Okay. So now, earlier there was a question about the admission process. So what we do from a room scan perspective. So now we are in the admission process, which is where we are going to provide step-by-step instructions through the chat communication channel on what we need to see in the environment. So during this process, there will be communications to do an initial 360-degree room scan, followed by a more in-depth scan of both the desk as well as under the desk. And again, this will all be seen in real time. So we don't do any uploads of room scans because we want to be able to see the environment in a fluid fashion so that the only manipulations done to the environment are those requested by the check-in specialist. And then we can confirm that those manipulations to the environment that we've asked for have been completed. So we would do the 360, the desk scan. We also do a human scan. So the human scan simply consists of making sure that there's nothing on the wrists or in the ears. So we would do that. We do in the event that they are wearing glasses, we would ask for a glasses inspection. And then we also do kind of a low-tech alternate version to having a second camera. That's something that is still in discussion internally at PSI on whether or not we want to implement it. Right now, we have opted against it due to the complexity from a test taker perspective. But in the check-in process, and this is where that previous question comes into play, at the end of a check-in, we're going to look for that phone. So we're going to require a test taker to show their phone. And they are going to have to show it on selfie mode. So what happens when you ask test takers to use their phone is you can see here that now I can see the entire keyboard as well as the perimeter of the screen of the computer. So that means that test takers can't keep any sticky notes here. They can't keep their phones here anymore. They can't leave any sticky notes or paper on their keyboard that would not have been visible through the traditional webcam. This then allows us to look behind the computers and we can use mirrors. So that's why we do the 360 as well as using the phone from a room scan perspective. So we're going to make sure that there's no one else in the room, that they're not in an open space, that they're in a confined space. And the last thing we'll do is remind them that any interruptions from other people in the environment can result in termination. So we take that very seriously. Any questions on the room scan itself? I know I went through it kind of at a high level. I can obviously provide more details, but I am trying to be cognizant of time as we kind of move through this. Okay. The only other thing that we would do at this point in time is let them know if there's anything allowed or disallowed. So again, if they're allowed water or anything like that, we would ensure that those things are offered to them so that they're in the environment or not before proceeding to releasing the exam. So again, at this point in time, only the check-in specialist in securing the environment and authenticating that user will allow a test taker to get into their exam. If they do not pass authentication, if they do not pass the environment scans, they will never have access to the exam content and they'll be prevented from moving forward. So at this point in time, if we feel that we have secured the environment sufficiently, then we would go ahead and approve that test taker, which will then allow them to move to the proctor. Okay. Okay, now that I've got the sound muted, we should be good on that side. So now a test taker's in their exam. So I'll take a little bit more time here and kind of explain the technology. So this we refer to as the banner. So here you would have a dedicated phone number for test takers to be able to contact technical support in the event of technical issues. We do have technical support that does chat support as well. Some people are more comfortable talking to somebody when there's a technical issue. In the event that breaks are allowed, there is a break feature that would allow them to request a break and then return from a break. End session will completely end the exam, so that is only used at the conclusion of an exam. And then we have the ADA features here for Zoom shortcuts and spacing. Live chat is again going to pop out that right fly out chat. All chat is going to be retained throughout the entirety of the exam. So you'll see there that all of those check-in chats are also there for the proctor. And then this is just where the content would be. And so it's important to see here is I, as a test taker, have full visibility to the content. Now, from a security perspective, there's another element that we add in on the proctoring side. So let me pull that in and show you what it looks like for our team when we're proctoring an exam. So here you can see my screen. So you were just able to see what it looked like from the test taker's point of view. Now you're looking at it from a proctor's point of view. So a proctor can have up to 8 concurrencies. And so our UI is actually designed for 12. So you can see I have the ability to resize these depending on how many cards, as we refer to each individual test taker, that we have on our screen. So you have 2 streams that you're watching per test taker. One is going to be that webcam view. The second is going to be the desktop view. And what's important when you see that desktop view below is it is obfuscated, and that is done with intentionality to prevent the ability for our team to be able to read that exam content. So it's just an added layer of security. We can still see what's going on down here. Like if I were opening these up, you can slowly see them pop up at the bottom. It's a little bit easier maybe if I come down here. So you can see those popping up. So I can see that there's something happening on the test taker screen, and I can prompt them either via chat or annotation to question what they're doing and move forward. Now, again, I am in a relaxed security profile, so those kinds of things are not blocked for me right now so that I can do this through Teams. You'll see that there are some extended lookaways that pop up. Those are prompts to our team just to draw attention to that particular test taker. So when I'm looking away at my other screen or looking back, it will catch those things and notify our team. Again, none of those alerts are going to be seen by the test taker because they're intended to be used by our team only. So going back to that whole AI is supplemental, but a human's always going to be the final decision maker. We have things here, and this is probably a little bit more information than necessary, but we have the ability to monitor connectivity, both of the test taker and of our proctor. And so what that does is in the event that we see test takers complaining of streaming issues within the exam, then we have a quick way to kind of reference it looks like they may be having a connectivity problem at that point in time. And we can say, you know, as a reminder, make sure that other people in your home aren't on the internet or things like that. We have an ADA icon, and what that does is that tells us if a test taker has special accommodations. So our team is trained to look for those accommodations so that we can administer each exam equitably and with those necessary instructions that come through. And then we also have just some additional features within the card and tools that we can use. So from a one last thing I'll talk about very briefly is annotations. So we have the way that we annotate a record or administer violations, which means that there's a behavior that we have seen that is not aligned to standard test taking behaviors. Standard test taking behaviors is looking straight forward at a screen, typing, movement of a mouse, the occasional look up as people get some eye stress. We see that, and that is very standard. The violations allow us to administer an exam equitably. Those are determined by you as a client, and then our team is not trained on a client by client basis. Instead, they are trained across the board for all annotations. And then we simply teach them, see something, say something. And what that allows them to do is to come in the system. If they see that I've completely left the screen, then they can come in here and look for that particular violation. If they grade out, then that means that I, as a proctor, now know that there is not a violation for that for this particular client. They may have a relaxed profile and allow people to come and go from the room. Generally, that's not the case. But what that does is, again, for us, it removes the human bias and allows for equitable administration of the exam, so that if somebody comes in the room, we annotate as such, and then determine based on your configurations, it will determine if they're going to get a warning or if they're going to get kicked out of their exam. Any questions on the in-exam? And I can show what an alert would look like as well. Okay. Okay, so what you see on the screen now, that is a warning violation. So it has been annotated that the test taker failed to comply with a proctor's request. Based on the configurations of my particular organization, which is an Erin test org, I have set this one to automatically terminate. So they got that warning notification that said that from the first violation for covering the camera. And then the second one, which was the failure to comply with proctor requests, is a terminating violation. So you can now see that they've got a countdown on screen that will count down before automatically closing that secure browser. And that is essentially the conclusion. And then here you see that from a proctoring perspective, we can see what was annotated for that particular record. Everything that happened during this particular session is going to be recorded and available to you as a client. So you'll be able to see the video, the artifacts, the chat scripts, as well as the annotations associated to this individual test taker record and what caused the termination for their exam. And that is online testing in a short span. Any additional questions that I can answer for folks?
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much for that. This is Jay. So I have a couple of questions. I guess less technical one, but more kind of comparing this to the in-person. One, do we allow breaks for people who are doing in-person testing? Do we know? Alone or Kathy, maybe you know?
Yeah, hi, Jason. Yeah, we actually do. We allow it's a 5-minute break. They do a sign in and sign out and sign in sheet. And if they're gone for more than 5 minutes, then their exam is terminated.
And do we have comparison statistics for pass and fail rates for in-person versus online?
Yeah, so this is an example of let me share my screen quick. Okay, so this would be an example of this is Hawaii in December. And we basically see a very similar pass rate between the two. It may be like 1 to 2% different, and it's just based on, just the number of testers, etc. And you'll see also that in this case, they had a total of 384 candidates that tested, and they had over 50% that did remote. So that's about what we see with all clients, about a 50-50 ratio. So pass rates basically stay the same, and candidates choose to test remotely about 50% of the time.
All right, thank you.
How long has this been in effect, and how many states are now currently doing it?
Okay, how many states are not doing it?
No, how many states are doing this?
Okay, so we launched, I think the first launch was 2020 or 2021. And currently, as Alone said, we have over 50 clients that use it. And for real estate, I will tell you that in a minute. Unless Alone, you know offhand. Okay, so Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Missouri, New Jersey, Ohio, Oregon, Tennessee, Virginia, and Washington. So actually all of our real estate clients use it except you and Maryland. And South Carolina. South Carolina also doesn't use it at this time.
How many test takers does the proctor monitor? It looks like they're doing 12.
So our UI was built for 12, so we were highly optimistic several years ago. But we are currently at an 8 concurrency, and we typically average 6 concurrency. So we have found that, and the big reason that we have felt comfortable at the 8 concurrencies because we did bifurcate that check-in. So now as a proctor, all you're doing is watching test takers in the exam, which is kind of like we're doing right now. Everybody is looking straight forward, and it's very, very simplified in that regard because they're not doing any looking away to watch somebody go through a room scan or anything like that. So we did have the UI built for the 12, but we do the 8 concurrency. We left it at the 12 because it does allow them to, like you saw with me, kind of expand. So if there's a test taker that they feel is suspicious or concerning, they have the ability to make their particular session bigger than any other one that they have on their screen so that they can pay closer attention while still monitoring everybody. So that's why we left that UI user interface at the 12, at the ability to expand to 12 if we needed to, but we don't have any intentions today of going above 8 because it is human intensive for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other
This
questions?
is Annalisa from legal. I have one question. Can you speak more about that language option?
Yeah, so the exams themselves can be built in the languages of your choice. So if there are other languages that are offered for the exam, those can be made available in online testing. From a proctoring perspective, though, the chat communication itself will always and only be in the English language unless specific language support is hired. Now, we are currently looking at some various vendors to add in an AI translation layer. We've attempted to use Google Translate in the past, and it doesn't always do very well when it comes to translating. So we're being very diligent in assessing different vendors and what that chat translation layer would look like for our test takers, because that is one of the challenges with online testing is you can have your exam and your UI in the language that you need, but the communication itself via chat will only be in English at this point in time. So that is something that we are currently working on. That being said, we do run a global program. So we administer exams around the globe using the English language for all of our clients. There's only a couple that pay for Mandarin, additional fees for Mandarin support. But aside from that, we have not had many escalations regarding the inability to communicate through chat.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Jason, has the department reviewed this yet? Has DCT reviewed this program
Well,
yet?
That's what we're in the process of doing now.
They're in a process.
Yeah. But like I said, we definitely wanted to get the board's input and feedback and make that a big part of our consideration.
Seems exciting. It seems like this makes it more accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, there's certainly going to be people, I would imagine, who the tech is kind of beyond them or uncomfortable for them. But of course, as they said, the in-person will not go away. This is just for people who choose to go down this path.
Right, right. And I think that's the thing, right? Is I think we're adding a lot of just capacity for the, just test capacity for people to take the test. And I think, Jason, I echo exactly what you say completely. Like, this isn't for everyone. Like for me, who I deal on computers all the time. I'd probably go to a test center just because I probably get distracted. But so it's a preference for the person. And yeah, for those that aren't comfortable with technology, the test centers are still there. And for those that are, this is an option. And, knowing the cold winters in Connecticut, if you don't want to wake up and get in your car and drive to a test center, you can just walk into your office and do it, or to a room and do it. So
Approximately how long does the whole process take? Because the sign in and the ID is not that easy or that quick. So how long would it take an individual to do this from their office or from home?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take that one. And I will say it depends on the test taker, right? So if they have come in prepared and ready, right? Online testing is not work from home. So you can't have your coffee, you can't go take a quick restroom break, you can't go give the kids a hug on their way out to the bus. So those are all very disruptive. So it's really incumbent upon the test taker to understand what they're signing up for. That being said, because we have the one-to-one concurrency with our check-in specialist, and I'm going to keep hammering home on that, our check-in times right now are under 10 minutes, and that is end to end from the test taker starting that self-check-in flow to being released in their exam. 10 minutes is our average. And we have come down, we started a year and a half, 2 years ago, we were about 27 minutes. And so we have worked very, very hard over the last 2 years to analyze the test taker experience and look for opportunities for improvement. So one of the big delays was images of webcam IDs. It was very, very challenging for the test taker to capture a quality image. We recognize that because it was also a huge call driver for test takers, because if we can't verify the ID, we can't let them into their exam, right? So we take great pride in assessing not only, kind of the operational impacts and data and metrics, but also pairing those to the test taker experience. And so because we've been able to go from, almost a 30-minute check-in time down to a 10-minute average, that's come from constantly being in the data, understanding the test taker experience, as well as ensuring security. So that's where we're at today. Again, it obviously depends on the test taker's readiness, because if you show up and you've got books and papers and everything out on your desk, it's going to take a little bit longer to get that cleared away. Or if you have documentation you have to present, there are some of those things that can take a little bit longer. But 10 minutes is our current average check-in time.
And with the test itself, how long would a test taker have to allow for the complete process?
So that would just depend on the exam duration. So if the exam duration is 90 minutes, then they'll just, typically we would say, give yourself 30 minutes to get through check-in, because some people will not, to Ellen's point earlier, be as technically savvy, right? Installing the software, closing prohibited programs. So we generally say allow for 30 minutes to get through your check-in process, but our average is 10 minutes.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sharon, you're muted, Sharon. You're muted.
What other industries allow this type of testing?
So we do this for pretty much all of ours. So for our insurance clients, for our insurance states, I think all but one do it, as Kathy mentioned, in real estate. Most of ours do for our barber and cosmetology. So, and then our construction trade. So all different industries, and it really just comes down to each agency that we work with in each department, whether that's something that they want to do or not. But for us, we
Thank you.
will allow it for anyone.
And just to extend on that, we also, being a global program, we do have folks on the certification side and everything from healthcare to technology and in between. We also have federal programs that do use the online testing platform for some of their window-based programs.
I see Jill has her hand up.
Jill had a, yes.
Yeah, I have a question about when you first do the initial scan, is that the only scan in the room that you do? You do it once and that's it?
So the room scan itself is a multi-step. So long as they're not leaving the room or there's not anything that prompts an additional room scan, the room scan is conducted in a series of 5 different steps because we want to see the full 360 so that we have a landscape of the room, floor to ceiling. Then we do the desk, above the desk, below the desk, and then we move into the human scan, and then use the phone for the final component of that.
Yeah, and then the view that you're seeing, it's from their camera or right?
Mhm.
The camera
Yep,
on
that's
their
right.
computer. And does it
Correct.
show their, like, we didn't see the entire keyboard or hands, or I mean, does it show their hands all the time? Do they have to keep their hands up? I'm just curious how could somebody walk in a room and put a pad next to somebody that you wouldn't know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't have a second camera today. That would be an additional, I will say, complexity for test takers as far as another piece of equipment to set up an environment. It is something that we are looking at and evaluating and discussing internally on what that would look like to implement. Because today you can't see the test taker's hand throughout the entire duration of the exam. That being said, our team is trained, so when test takers aren't moving and sitting idle like this, we know that there's something that is suspicious that's occurred in that environment. When we're doing the room scans, we're going to make sure that any doors in that room are closed. We're going to make sure that we don't see anybody in the room as part of that 360. That being said, there is a risk that somebody could open the door very quietly, have taped, the door part shut so you can't potentially hear it. Those are obviously some of the risks with online testing. But that's why our team is well trained and why we do have the proctors that focus just on the proctoring once they're in the exam, because they know the behaviors that are typically attributed to somebody that potentially may not be taking the exam themselves and are well versed in addressing that.
Okay, thank you.
Jason?
So, yeah, so kind of in conjunction with that, if breaks are allowed, is there any kind of reinspection following the break?
There is a reinspection after the break. We'll do a 360 room scan.
And how approximately how many of the clients who do this online testing allow breaks?
0 for real estate. 0.
Okay, yeah, that's
So we
definitely the
do-
easiest way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those where kind of back to, is this for everybody? I mean, the thing is, we do have some, for example, we have some exams, not in the real estate industry, but in others that are an 8-hour exam. So for an 8-hour exam, it's a little draconian to not allow someone to use the restroom, right? But I think kind of the rule of thumb has kind of been up to like 4 hours, someone can kind of handle it. So for our real estate clients, we have none that allow breaks.
I can't, I mean, well, I guess it comes down to, it's not for everyone, but I mean, a bathroom break once an hour doesn't seem unreasonable.
Right. So if that's the case, you would probably go to a test center.
Okay. So, and do you put up a flag, I guess, ahead of time? Make sure you take, eat, drink, use the restroom, do everything you need. Okay.
All like the kind of what is expected and rules are given ahead of time. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this: the no breaks has not been, in the few years that this has really become prominent with our clients. The no breaks has not been like a thing, where it's become a big thing that we had to revisit it. We could, but it hasn't come up as like, it's a lot of complaining from people. So, because people know what to expect and what is allowed and not.
At the in-person testing, there is not a break. Is that correct?
Well, at the in-person testing, they're allowed to use the rest. Let's say they're, at the test center, it's in an office building. They can go to the restroom in the building. The time does not stop on the exam. But they're going to the restroom, like in the building, we know kind of at least where they're going. Whereas at home, the difference is you don't know once they leave that room what they're doing and where they're going.
And Jill, they can only go for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember when I took my test years ago, I wasn't allowed to do anything. I had to sit there and just finish it. I don't think there was a break. Maybe that's something that's newer.
Just wondering if I gather that the technology or the cost of it is not able to have 8 cameras on you at all times. Or
Not yet.
8 cameras
Not
on
yet.
8 people at all times.
Not yet.
It'd be nice if they had their camera from their computer, but then a side camera from their phone. Because then you could see what's going on around them, because you really can only see the screen and what's in front.
Yeah, I mean,
how many people get dismissed or thrown off, whatever you want to call it, from a proctor exam? Like, what's the average? Is it like 1 in 10, or what are the suspicious
Well, for
activity that
example,
throws them off?
In the Hawaii stats I just showed you, they tested 98 plus 49, and they had 4 terminations. So out of 250 people this particular month, they had 4 terminations.
And when someone
I'm
gets
sorry,
terminated,
two terminations.
and when
and
somebody
one
gets
was from-
terminated, is it up to the state to decide, okay, they're not going to have an
Yes.
at-home test again, they're going to go to a testing center?
It's
Or
very
if it's
similar.
really bad, if it's something that's really bad, does the state maybe say, yo, you can't do
Yes.
this now? Now we're not even going to entertain you. And
Right.
because we've had cheaters, we've had some cheating before that's been addressed, but
Yeah.
just
I mean,
curious how that.
if we catch someone, if we terminate someone and we catch them doing something they shouldn't be, the process ends up being very similar to a test center. Like, we catch them at a test center as well, right? So we'll let our clients know, here's what happened. There's video evidence as to what happened. And then the determination as far as what happens to that candidate is determined by our client. So some will say, depends on the state and sort of the infraction. Some will say they're banned from testing. Some will say they're banned from testing for a month. Some will say they have to go to a test center. So we catch them, and then it's up to our clients to decide what to do with that person. Here's what I'll say, right? And Kathy and Aaron have heard me say this to kind of every client we've done on this. Like, if people are going to cheat, they're going to try to cheat, whether it's at a test center or remote proctor. It's not as if one is foolproof and one is not. The thing that we do a really good job of is, both with Aaron and her remote proctor team, they're trained to look for things, just like our proctors at the test center. So we're going to catch them either way. The other thing, I think we were kind of joking about it, but is something where, with the real good thing about this remote proctoring sort of process is, because there's technology involved, with the software and everything, it's always going to get better, right? Where we are today from where we were 3 years ago is night and day. From the software, from how we proctor, just, for test center delivery, we've been doing it for 40 years. We could do it in our sleep, right? But for remote proctor, which is relatively new, it's software. And also, we've learned how to proctor, how to support it. So things like a second camera, which are in our roadmap, will happen. Things just with technology, it's always going to improve. But where we are today, as Kathy kind of went through the list of states, we're doing this already in mass, and it's working really well. And at the end of the day, the question is, how do you know it's as secure? Is when you look at, what we end up looking at is the data of pass rates, right? So for example, if someone's taking the salesperson exam and the pass rate, I'm just making up numbers, right, is 60% people pass it. And then we look at, then once we go to remote proctoring, we look at the comparison of test center versus remote proctor. If the test center pass rate is 60% and remote proctor is 90%, you have a problem, right? Because then you know something is up. But when we look at data, the pass rates are so close to one another that you're seeing that it's the security is the same regardless of the modality. That's really the kind of the telltales what we look at.
So I guess, Ben, I don't know if you want to kind of poll the board, but I just would love feedback on if this board thinks, has any concerns if we decide to pursue this, or even as a pilot project.
That's just 1 sec. I guess, well, Jason, you actually asked a lot of questions that I had written down. The only uncomfortable part a little bit about what can change after the break session. How could the environment, that's the only uncomfortable part that I have, because they've been in the exam for a while. They're getting a feeling of the exam. Could something change while they're in the bathroom or whatever they come back in? That's the only uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think we would probably stick with what everyone else is doing, which is not allow breaks.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, it's not for everybody. For some people who do need a constant break, this is not the answer.
Right.
Right. That's exactly right.
I know when I was in the test center in person, they were accommodating and totally reasonable. And, but I think it's great. You have a lot of different ways for different people for different needs.
Yep.
When you have somebody who really can't handle the technology, I mean, is there a period of time when you can say to them, look, come into a test center, you're not going to make this, or do you just let them sort of flounder around for a while?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll take that one real quick if you want, alone.
Please.
So we did implement, we recognized that test takers were downloading the secure browser on exam day. And so it wasn't until exam day that they were determining whether or not online testing was for them or not. So one feature that we implemented last year as a result of some of the studies we were doing is a tutorial exam. And so what that does is once a test taker books their online exam, it is going to provide them launch links to go through, install the secure browser. It will launch it through your security profile. So they're going to hit the same challenges that they would prior to exam day. And they can do that up to 3 times. They can contact technical support each of those 3 times that they want to do it and make sure that they can get through the entirety of the process. So it's not going to connect them with a check-in specialist, but they're going to go through the prohibited applications. They're going to see what ID upload looks like. They're going to see what the exam looks like in a tutorial type of environment. So they'll get to see the features and functionality, but then they can also determine, is this technology and this process for me? If not, they know well in advance of their exam day and can then call back in and reschedule that to a test center. And that has been a tremendous help in reducing some of that anxiety and frustration that happened on exam day at time of exam launch when people have already taken a long lunch break or PTO or things like that to take their exam.
Very good.
This is Annalisa from Legal again. I can also speak to the fact that I was going through law school during COVID, and this is how I took most of my law school exams. And you know how paranoid lawyers are. So lawyers decided that this was an acceptable way to take exams for classes. And I think even the bar exam in some states did very similar technology with a great deal of success.
Just a quick question. Does it spread out the testing times? So in other words, does it make it more convenient for people to take the exam and say they have a 9-to-5 job and they could go at, does it open that up?
Yeah.
3 a.m., 11, 3 a.m., 11 p.m. Our team is 24/7, 365.
Yeah, our test centers are open on weekends and Saturdays, but obviously those usually end up being taken quicker for exactly that. So yeah, it just adds overall capacity and choices for candidates. Yes.
Over the years, that's been the complaint, is that the lack of testing time-wise? Days?
That's what I love about this is if someone is immunocompromised and they can't be around other people or for, or some other reason, geographically it doesn't work out, they have an option.
And that's where, like, on the certification side in healthcare for nurses that are working a night shift or graveyard, those people that are used to being highly more cognitive in the night shift hours, they can take an exam on an off day during the night shift when they are, the ability to perform optimally on that exam. So it really just, it helps meet test takers where they are, and again, give them that kind of flexibility.
Well, how do we feel about it?
We
Peter,
feel great.
I'll start with you, Peter. What do you think?
You guys know I'm hugely in favor of it. I think it's a great technology. I think it makes it more accessible, and the technology is only going to get better. Look, there's always going to be cheaters. There's always going to be cheaters, and I think you catch most of them. You're never going to catch all of them, no matter what modality of testing you're using.
Yeah. Amy, what do you think?
I think it's fine. I think the investigation they do at the beginning to make sure that people, the room is clear and that sort of thing. The one question I do have is if I have my computer faced and there's a door at the door facing me that you can't see where somebody could come in, I do understand sound is on, but there could be somebody entering the room that you wouldn't have control over or no. That's all. That's my one concern. But again, like Peter said, if people are going to cheat, they're going to cheat. I think you would catch 95% of them. And, there's people cheating probably in the classrooms too. So it is what it is.
Sharon?
I think it's great, and not my preferred method personally, but I think it is for so many, and I just think it opens it up to availability. So I'm all for it.
Okay. Ed?
Just one question. I assume you've got a camera on the person's eyes. So if they fall asleep, I mean, I guess that would be maybe don't care if they fall asleep because they're not going to pass the exam. But so no, I think it's a great thing. I mean, great service because and I'm trying to think of ways they could cheat, but I can't really think of any ones that you could.
Just keep in mind, I'm sure the department will also review this closely to make sure in case we don't have we have missed a question here that we should have been asking. Linda? Want to burn them?
Hi. Yeah, I'm definitely all for it. I'm a little tentative on the cheating aspect, but as has been said, if people are going to cheat, they're going to cheat. So I think it's a good alternative for a lot of people who may not be able to go between 9 and 5 or thereabouts. So I'm for it.
Good. Morag?
It's 2025. I think it's time that we offered this option to those who want to take advantage of it.
Well, great. I think I'm for it also. This is great for not for everybody, but for some. And the younger people. When I took my license, I came by stagecoach, but that's a while ago. But I am for it. I think it's a great movement. All right, Jason.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate everyone's time and feedback on this because we definitely, this is your area of expertise as far as the content in the field. So we wanted to make sure you guys had some input in this, but I appreciate all the feedback and love to hear that it's unanimous support.
Thank you. So with that, and we thank all of you too from PSI. You did a great job, by the way. Your presentation was great. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, with that, I believe that's it. So.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye, Jason. Bye. everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Before we adjourn, does anyone have any new business they'd like to bring up? Or anything that's bothering anybody this time?
I have a
Any-
question. There have been some complaints within realtor groups within the state of people complaining about wholesalers. And one of the comments was that DCP is looking to take on wholesalers or do something about wholesalers. Is it accurate, or I'm just curious?
Jill, can you answer that question? Jill Conklin?
Just have to unmute and put my camera on. There is a lot of talk about wholesalers. I mean, as you may know, there was a bill put forward, but it wasn't by DCP last session that didn't come up.
Okay.
I know Annalise is on here too. She's with the legal team. She may want to talk more about that, but it's definitely a hot topic. It's getting more and more prevalent.
Okay.
And one way we're trying to address it, I think, as everyone here knows, this Friday we have the public seminar about real estate, and that's certainly one of the topics we're going to try and educate consumers about, what to look for on their contracts so that they understand what they're signing. Because unfortunately it is legal right now, but I think the biggest issue is that they don't even understand what they're getting into.
Right. How many people do you have signed up for that session?
We have about 500 right now.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah. I mean, the vast majority are online. I think we have around 40 in person. Yeah, and I expect that number to keep growing by the end of the week, because the press release just came out, I think on Monday. So
Okay.
hopefully it'll get some more publicity as well. And we even
Great.
did some advertising on Zillow. We tried to get where people would be if they're interested in home buying.
Right.
So.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
I think one of the things too, again, is there's absentee land that we're going through, people actually going online and then impersonating the seller, calling a real estate company, says, I want to sell my land. I was involved actually in a situation about 6 months ago where an agent had called one of my agents on it. I went out and looked at the land myself. Something wasn't right, okay, beyond this, but this is going on a lot. So I think we've got to make sure that the public is aware of what is going on and who they're dealing with. Now with the computer, that's you can hide behind this. So it's a concern. All right. Anything else?
Is there anything new on commissions?
I'm sorry?
I say, is there anything new on commission on the commission rate?
What? I'm not sure exactly what.
I mean, it's implemented, and I think that's one of the things that DCP will be talking about on their session on Friday.
Once as you know, once it's clear now, there's two sides of this transactions. It's the buyer representation,
right? Yeah,
and seller representation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I just was wondering how it's working out. I mean, are you sticking still mostly to the sellers picking up the commission, or is it shifting?
I think situation will change. Depends on the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe Connecticut law has changed at all. The only thing that we're really going to say regarding commission, as far as the seminar, is just to let people know everything is negotiable, and they just need to work with their professionals to determine what they're both comfortable with.
The great part about this is when it all started, Connecticut was, ahead of its time. We did well, the law.
Yeah.
Protecting this. Okay, that's all I have to say. Or anyone else wants to join? Time to talk. If not, then thank all of you for coming, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you. See you in May.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys next time.
See you in the spring. Bye.
Thank you, Ben.